This is Heart-repreneur Radio, maximizing your personal and business results by leading with your heart. With your host, Terri Levine. Listen every week as Terri tackles the topics that will help you become a successful heart-centered entrepreneur. Be sure to read the blog posts at www.heartrepreneur.com/blog. Come back often and add this show to your favorite RSS feed or subscribe in iTunes. You can also follow Terri on Twitter at MentorTerri and on Facebook.com/Heart-repreneur Terri Levine. And now here's Terri.
Hello and welcome to Heart-repreneur Radio and TV show with Terri Levine. I'm your co-host, Velma Gallant, and I'm excited to be here today. You can connect with Terri, me, and other like-minded heart-based business owners in the Heart-repreneurs with Terri Levine Facebook group, so go check it out. Be sure to like our show, subscribe, and we always love getting those 5-star reviews. Today's quote: "Our ability to handle life's challenges is a measure of our strength of character." Les Brown. Today's show topic: from homeless to global guru, creating freedom from others through wealth, for others through wealth, business, and mindset. Our special guest this week is Rhiannon Rees. Rhiannon is a human behavior expert and a wealth acceleration coach. She works with clients who simply have to achieve a result, whether that is to grow a multi-million-dollar business or achieve a record outcome, build something from scratch, or become top in their game. These are people who value coaching and understand that it is a path to great freedom. Where she differs as a coach is her bag of tools she brings to the game. While she does have the traditional tools, she also has some great weapons, including harnessing quantum physics, using the Limbic Brain, daily consciousness practices, and a very solid business plan. In short, she is the catalyst that creates the champion, and then there isn't an event that her clients can't win. Welcome to the show, Rhiannon.
Hi, so lovely to be here with you, Velma.
So I'm really excited about this because when you said that you went from homeless, I resonated with that because at the age of 17, I was homeless. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your story, please.
Yeah, so, when you come from sort of middle-class background, my father was a doctor, the very last thing you'd ever imagine ever in your life is that you're going to be homeless. Mm-hmm. So, it was obviously never ever thought. But what happened was I was in a situation where I was married. My ex-husband was Canadian. I had a very big business, a health and wellness business. I had 35 staff, and I was very, very busy working like 15-hour days, 7 days a week, running this business in Whistler in Canada. And I'm not a very good cook, but I do make the best pancakes in the world. But my business partner was actually an amazing cook. And I had made this incredible cheesecake, and it was a very hot summer day in Canada, and the summers there are long. And I left the cheesecake on the stove, and I thought, oh gosh, I've got to go and grab that cheesecake, and otherwise it will spoil. And normally I would call my husband to borrow the car and get the cake, and I didn't. I actually just asked my business partner if I could borrow her car. So she lent me her car, and I drove home. And as I was walking down the garden, I put my key in the front door, and I opened the door, and I saw a flash of pink. And I thought, oh, that's odd. What is that? And as I walked down the hallway and I turned the corner, there was my husband in my sexy black lacy lingerie finishing a job interview over the phone. And now it's just like, you can't imagine where your mind goes in that moment. And I just thought it's really important what I say next. And he finished the interview, and he came over and he held my hands, and he said, "I've always wanted to be a girl." And the thing is, we had a very playful relationship. So it was hard for me to actually think that's true. But what happened was I held his hands and I said, "You're going to be a beautiful girl." And I took the cheesecake off the stove and I ran out the door, and I basically cried for the next 18 months, but I still didn't think it was real. But what happened was I didn't realize I was in shock. during this time, because my husband was actually transgender and had come out and was going to have a full sex change and become a woman. And it's very hard to get your mind around that. So being in shock for 3 years meant that I started making really bad decisions. So my business started going downhill. I ended up moving out of my house. I lost my business, my marriage, my home, and my mind all within about 3 months. That's how I ended up being homeless. So what I thought was I'll just house sit for a few weeks, because my payroll with my girls was $35,000 every 2 weeks. So I thought if I house sit, I'll have more money. I'll be able to do that, because my mind started to go down a very bad spiral. So I ended up house sitting in over 40 houses in 3 years until I literally ran out of steam. And I'm just like, I just can't do this anymore. And I ended up living in a tent on food bank handouts. So that's the story. That's how I became homeless.
Wow. It's really, I love that you took that opportunity and turned it around. And I think what it also gives you is a certain level of compassion for your clients, that no matter what they've been through, no matter what internal shame they might have, they're going to know that it's a safe place with you, because
it's so true, Velma. Like, they bring me problems like, they've got big problems in business. Their products aren't selling, or they need more money, or they've got a cash flow issue or a staffing issue. And the first thing I'll say is, that's not a problem. Like, being homeless is a problem, but the problem that you have is not a problem. We just need to get really creative to solve it. And so it's effortless to fix these people's businesses, to help them grow. It's effortless, because where I was so low that these problems are easy.
Right. Yeah, really. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your non-traditional tools that you support your clients with, to grow their businesses, to do those really big, juicy dreams.
Yeah. So your traditional coaching is like using plans and, mainstream things like, KPIs and, testing and measuring, that sort of thing. Where I go is I'm looking to unlock keys with my clients that create massive shifts. So first of all, I'll be a detective, a human behavior detective. So I'm looking for the biggest block, and that could be fear of success or fear of failure, or can't receive the accolades, or doesn't want to be seen as number one, or whatever it is. And I'll go after that. And then I drop in all these limbic brain quantum physics practices that I've created through my coaching journey. So things like, we are processing 20 million pieces of information a second in our subconscious mind. But in our conscious mind, we only process 40. So how do you access that subconscious mind? Now, Jung and Freud and Adler believe that those self-limiting beliefs in your subconscious mind were created around the ages of 7, 8, 9, and 10. So if you feed that reticular activating system like a child, like colors and sparkles and things like that, you will get that part of your brain, you'll get its attention. So everything we do is to talk to the subconscious mind. And so then you start to think, all the work I do is non-linear and non-progressive. So it doesn't have it's not sequential in any way, because you don't need to go to get from 1 to 10. You do not need to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can go 1 to 10 quantum immediately when you harness these tools. And there's many, many tools. I'm just giving you a few simple tools.
Right.
But it's about thinking that this is possible and creating this in this moment now, rather than, that has to take, like, I'll give you a classic example. I gave myself a test with these quantum tools. I thought, how fast could I create a house deposit? If I had to, how fast could I create a house deposit? And when I ask people this question, because I love real estate, they say, about a year. And I'm like, no, less than that. And for the sake of your show, because I know your show is on a time frame, I will tell you how fast I created a house deposit. I created a house deposit in 5 minutes.
What?
And people go, yes. And without having any money for the house deposit at that time. Yes, I could carry the mortgage, but I didn't actually have the down payment. And how I did it is how I teach my clients. If you have a situation, what 10 ways can you solve it? So what I did I created a win-win. I created a situation that would help someone with my deal to create my house deposit. So what I thought is, who can benefit the most from this situation? I wrote a list of 10 people, and the person at the top was a single mum with 2 kids. And I thought, you know what, she can really benefit from the situation. I put a win-win situation down on the table. Within 5 minutes, she'd said yes. I had my money for my down payment, and I paid her back in 4 weeks with a big chunk on the end. That's how effortless it was. And that's the thing, is we go, oh my God, house deposit, that'll take a few years to make that happen, because you go to what's automatic. Like, we become like sheep. We don't think creatively at all because we're too lazy. We just go with what we know. Really, does it make sense?
It makes total sense, because I mean, that area that you were talking about, the where our
Limbic
beliefs
brain
are created,
Yes.
the age limit where our beliefs are created, and from our toddler years up until that time, our minds are so creative.
Exactly right.
Like when I was making a mud pie, I wasn't just playing in the mud. I was really making a pie. In my mind, I was really making a pie. And then we get older and we have that creativity kind of squished out of us, or
we become
calcified.
Calcified. We become habituated. So if we see a situation, we'll respond in the same way that we always respond. And what we need to do is find new ways, because then you find new neural pathways as well, which create things. You can manifest things magically when you look at things in a different light.
Yes. That is brilliant. Okay. So limbic brain. I want to make sure that our listeners have an opportunity to understand what you're speaking of there. Like, I get it, but
so if you think that you have an awareness of your mind, and your awareness is about 10% of the full capacity of your mind, so the other 90%, consider that the darkness, that you have no idea what goes on in there, how it works. It's keeping you alive, it's making your heart beat, and it's that fight or flight. It's the actual identity of who you are. It's your consciousness exists in that realm. And so this is why successful people always talk about meditation, because it's only through meditation that you can actually unite all of who you are, so you can access the far reaches of your mind. Like in the Indigenous culture, they talk about having 3 brains. They talk about having a gut brain, a heart brain, and a little tiny brain in your head. And do you know what they call this in the Aboriginal Indigenous culture in Australia? They call the little tiny brain in your head is called Nundupuro. Now, Nundupuro translates to tangled fishing net. So why would you use a tangled fishing net without using your heart brain and your gut brain as well? Because the tangled fishing net's going to get it wrong. Right. And this is the realm that we need to move into, and you can access it by meditating. Even 5 minutes a day, every day, will start to line up those brains. And guess what? That now catapults what you have access to in terms of making decisions. Mm-hmm. You just 100x what you have access to.
So daily meditation, is that one of the daily consciousness practices that you teach your clients?
Yeah, so I do it in a specific order, because what you're doing as you move through your world, you're giving off a type of energy. And if you want to draw things to you, you need to magnetize that type of energy to you just by being. So the first thing my clients do is gratitudes, because there's nothing more expansive than saying I'm grateful for. So we start with I'm grateful for, and from there you go, who are you? I'm grateful for, and then I'm the best mother in the world. I'm always working on that one, by the way, but I will keep saying I'm the best mother in the world, or I get to do what I want with whom I want, when I want, or I create multiple streams of income passively, continuously. So when you start to speak these words after you've created an abundant framework to speak them into, it actually cracks open your heart, and you start to live a soul-centered, heart-centered, on-purpose life. And so when you have these practices, which include meditation, I ams, gratitudes, strategic questioning, when you start to drop these into your life every single day, you start to move right into that limbic brain. But guess what? Your life's on purpose. You are now living a heart-centered, it's Heart-repreneur Radio, heart-centered, soul-purpose life. And so doors will open because you are in the zone. Like Chick Chat McHale has that book, the Flow, it's called Flow, but it's about being in the zone, because when you line up and you're on purpose, your heart is on purpose, your soul is aligned, your doors open. And your life becomes so much more fulfilling and so much more full of substance, and you're accessing that naturally. The quantum subconscious practices become natural, but it is about having the discipline. Like when I went to a coaching conference in Miami about 10 years ago, with Les Brown was there and Oprah's boyfriend was there, Stedman. We had a bunch of speakers, and one of the guys got up on stage and he said, "How often do you do your daily consciousness practices?" And there was some quite well-known coaches there, and they put up their hands. They go, "Oh, 2-3 times a day." I'm sitting in the audience going 200-300 times a day, because what you say to yourself when you're by yourself is who you become. So these daily consciousness practices are really, really important.
That's it, and it's true. I start my day. I start my day with a meditation. I start my day with a prayer. And then partway through the morning, I do another meditation, and then I end my day with a meditation.
You could add the gratitudes in. You could just add the gratitudes in, because it'll expand everything else that you do.
I do gratitudes every day. I set 3 gratitudes, 3 intentions, and 3 things I'm delegating to the universe. And
that's the thing, is when you're in a state, like once you've done all that and you're in your champion mindset, which is soul-centered, heart-centered, then you can surrender to what will be, because you're in your best state. And so as the world comes to you, you actually end up making better decisions, because you're now accessing different parts of your brain, and your heart is making the choices.
Well, and I think we're making better decisions because by activating the limbic brain, our creative brain, we actually notice things that we wouldn't notice otherwise.
Like for me to kickstart some of my clients' work in the limbic brain, if they're right-handed, I get them to brush their teeth with their left hand, because it's horrible. They get toothpaste all over their face because they're not, but what we're doing is we're trying to create a new pathway that's not habituated. I get them to drive to work differently. I get them to dress differently. Like, don't dress and put your socks on the same way, do them a different way. When you sit at the dinner table, switch over your knife and fork, because you need to create new pathways and access different parts of the brain. And the more that you do that, guess what? Your toolkit for life expands.
I like that. So I want to make sure that our listeners know how to connect with you, to get access to maybe working with you, finding out more about what you offer. What is the best way for our listeners to connect with you?
I think the easiest way, obviously I've got Facebook Conscious Coaching Collective, which you can see in the background, but my consciouscoaching.coach website is the best way to reach me, consciouscoaching.coach.
Hey there, it's Terri Levine. I just wanted to pop in for just a moment as you're listening here to Heart-repreneur Radio and watching Heart-repreneur TV. We have so many new and exciting things going on. So you can watch a free masterclass. Highly recommend to get a conveyor belt of qualified prospects. That's at TL, like Terri Levine, tlwebinar.com. Head over there, enjoy it, keep listening and sharing the show.
Now clearly your background and some of the things that you experienced, the completion of your one business, the homelessness, how did you end up transitioning into the coaching practice that you're in now?
Great question. Well, because it was so horrible being homeless, I thought, how can I get as far away from this as possible so I can live a better life? I don't want to live this sort of life. And I remember one night in the tent, going to sleep at night, and I used to make $500 a month back then because my expenses were so high and I was making lots of mistakes in my business. And I thought to myself, what's the most amount of money I could make in a month? And I decided if I could make $40,000 in a month, woohoo, I'd be set. Well, 18 months later, like after leaving the tent, I made my first month $40,811, because what I realized is I had a poverty victim scarcity mindset. And what I've done is I've trained myself and studied millionaires and billionaires, and now I have a billionaire mindset. So I'm teaching people automatic wealth. And the thing is, people can't, it's like the limbic brain all over again, but in their realm of wealth, they can't allow themselves to receive it. So for example, I'm massively into cryptocurrency, and cryptocurrency is wealth for the masses. Because you become your own bank. It allows you to be sovereign. It's the most powerful thing that we can gift everyone, is to become their own bank, to become sovereign. But you'll only see the opportunity to the level that you can allow yourself to be wealthy, right? And because I was living in a tent, I wanted to have as much wealth as I could have, because that gives you choice. Then you can help other people and you're not a problem anymore. You're actually the solution. So I've got this billionaire mindset, and I'm teaching people how to free themselves and to become their own bank and become sovereign. And it's phenomenal. It's mind blowing. That's the best way I can describe it.
Well, and it sounds to me that it's not just in the realm of cryptocurrency, but you're giving them that sovereignty.
That's it.
Their imagination, in all, like the wholeness
all
of
aspects of, that's exactly right. It's totally whole. It's so creative, and it's so there's no middleman. It's all done through smart contracts. So there's, you don't call up customer service and say, how is this done? Like, the contract is complete. It's sort of like living in the Jetsons, you're living in that realm, but you are your own bank. But it's not just that. It's that now you take responsibility for yourself, because everything that you do is by your own hand. So there's so many good things that come out of it in terms of living a complete life where you're not giving your power away. And that's why I like it. I really like it for so many reasons.
Yeah. And
I was teaching my son a little bit about it. So I gave him a few clever coins, which is a new type of coin. And I said, here, I just want you to learn about compound interest. So I gave him a few coins to see, and the coins were worth about $300. And this is about 4 months ago. Well, they're already worth $2,500, and he hadn't even checked. And he looked and he went, oh my God, Mum, they're $2,500. I said, that's right. And you can see, because they've got a big backing of community behind them, and they're always doing things in that coin. So I'm like, that's going to go up. Like, it doesn't have to go up very much. Like, we bought them at 0.004 and they're now 11 cents in 4 months. Like, there's nothing like it. But it's not just that. It's that cryptocurrency is instant. If I want to pay someone in England, if I put it through the bank, it takes 5 days. If I pay through cryptocurrency through a smart contract, they receive their payment in 10 seconds. So what do you want to use?
Yeah.
And it's a match for the limbic brain. It's a match. The limbic brain's instant too.
And I'm seeing the parallel.
Yeah, your connections. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm definitely seeing the parallel there. So really, our brains are a form of cryptocurrency, and they're constantly using cryptocurrency, the energy of life. So if we're making, this is how we go from 1 to 10.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's so interesting, because all my work was in the limbic brain, self-limiting beliefs first. And then somebody put cryptocurrency in front of me about 2 years ago. And I'm like, I'm not good at computers. I'm not good at that stuff. I don't know how that works. And within it, when I started to apply all my limbic brain and success principles to that, I went, oh my God, now I get it. And I get how it's probably one of the most powerful things that you can introduce anyone on the planet to, because it will free them from suffering and free them from limitation. And they just have to have the courage to try, because it is like talking Swahili, right? But, it's the same as the limbic brain, the same as, how do you make that work? You have to try. It's trial and error. It's trying different things to open up the realms to live the greatest life that you can live, because you're here. And all these tools give it to you.
Well, and so our limbic brain can be kind of cryptic.
And you know what? There's a funny parallel there, because your limbic brain is completely cryptic, and cryptocurrency is like the limbic brain version of wealth. It's fascinating. It's so fascinating. And I mean, once you start, you can't stop learning. But isn't that all about life as well? Like, there's so many amazing parallels with it, because you've got to think 1/3 of the world is actually unbanked. They don't even have access to a bank. Whereas if they have a phone, they can be their own bank. And that actually touches my heart.
Well, and I think it kind of parallels the limitations that we've had trained into us regarding how our life works, which is, it's only the truth because we've been told it's the truth. It's only a truth, not the truth.
I'm so loving that you say that, because you've got to believe in other possibilities. You've got to believe that miracles happen every day. Like, I'm working with these guys and they trade like $1 billion a day. And you would think, oh my God, how do they live? You know what they say? They go, everyone deserves to be wealthy because wealth gives you choice. And that moves my heart. That's like, oh my goodness. And what they're doing is they're creating the possibility for other people to have access to this in a very simple way that makes them feel more safe. Do you know what I mean? And so it's just like, if you believe that the possibility is there, trust me, it is there. You just have to go find it. And that's what we have access to. And that's, as a speaker and a coach, my job is to share it, is to say, you have this possibility that you can take on however you want to take it on, whether that's a limbic thing, whether that's a wealth thing, but you can live a better life starting today. And it can be something really small, just even meditation. But there's so many ways that you can improve your life. And as someone who's a coach or a speaker, that's our job, is to share that.
Absolutely. It's how else do we create the impact that our heart craves, right?
That's exactly it.
So, okay. So if you were to give our listeners one piece of advice on how to access that limbic brain a little bit easier, what's the one piece of advice you would give them?
Okay, I'm going to go with 2 pieces of advice. But the first thing I'm going to say is absolutely must be meditation. Absolutely must be meditation. And the second thing is start using a variety of different colors when you're writing. Like, don't just stick to one color, because that will automatically start to access that limbic brain. So if you start, I have 20 different colors on my desk, and every few lines I switch colors because I want to talk to that part of my brain. So that's the easiest way that you can connect. And the funny thing is, over time, doing those 2 things, you'll start to feel different, because your world will be less linear, less sequential, and it'll be broader, it'll be deeper, it'll be more colorful, literally.
Literally, yeah. It's You're going from a black and white TV to Technicolor.
And that makes you feel different things, that creates different emotions, that triggers different neural pathways. So, you don't have to just use the knife and fork. You can go into a chef's kitchen and use everything that's available to you. Well, isn't that how we should be living? Use everything that's available to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it could be just as simple as brushing the teeth with the other hand, even though you're going to get toothpaste on your face.
And that's it, because you won't like it, because the other hand does it so well. So you won't like to try something new, but it will spark something new inside you. It'll spark something new. And that's what you're reaching into, a new toolkit. And when you have a bigger toolkit, guess what? You solve problems more easily, which means there's no such thing as a problem. If you have the toolkits, problems don't exist. And imagine if everyone in the world had this toolkit, the world would be totally different.
It would be, because we're moving away from, I've always done it this way.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What else can I do?
Yeah. And the thing is, when I first give that exercise to clients, they hate me in the beginning. They're like, oh my God, like it's just too slow, and my teeth don't feel right. But within 2 weeks they go, oh, I've mastered it. I'm like, of course you have. Okay, what's next?
What's next? Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I love that. So really, meditation, do something different.
Yeah, do something different. And the thing is, look for like most people go, if they've got a problem, they'll say to me, I've tried that and it didn't work. Well, did you try the other 100 possibilities? They go, well, I can't think of 100. Well, you can just start writing lists. Like if you just started to think of a name, like a branding name, you'd go start writing lists and just keep writing. They're all the ideas. And one of those ideas is a good idea. It's just we limit ourselves and go, I tried that way, that one way. You have to try 20 ways, 100 ways, 1,000 ways, just like the Colonel. KFC, we wouldn't be eating that if he didn't try. Well, I don't eat it, but you know what I mean. He tried 1,000 restaurants before one restaurant said they would take it.
Well, and same with the light bulb and every walking. Like, come on, did you stand up and go, oh, I couldn't
What
do
about
it?
speaking, saying that very first word? And that's the thing, is we need to be champion lesson learners. We need to love our lessons and not be afraid to try something new. Like, the more that you get habituated, the more your thinking becomes concrete and less flexible, which means you're not open to new ideas. You're not open to a really broad spectrum of what's available to you.
That is so incredibly true.
Smarter than I look. I said I'm smarter than I look.
Well, we all are.
Exactly.
We don't give ourselves the credit or the opportunity.
And then you've got the inner critic that says you can't be that. That's not going to happen for you. And the more that you do the inner work, the more you love yourself, the more self-worth you have, the greater your outside life will be, the more options you'll have externally, the more wealth you'll have in all ways, healthy, wealthy, wise, like, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. You just have a better life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we've actually reached the end of our time, which went by really fast. I know, right? And that seems to happen a lot on this show because we only get the most amazing people. It's fantastic. And so I want to make sure, again, that our listeners have the opportunity to connect with you and connect with your work. So can you share your website again, please?
www.consciouscoaching.coach. consciouscoaching.coach.
Perfect.
Love to help your listeners out.
So, Rhiannon, I am so grateful for the time with you today. It was, there's a lot of remembering that I'm very grateful for through our conversation. So thank you so much for your time. And I know our listeners will have received value from this as well. And thank you to our listeners for coming and chatting with us today. Make sure you go to Facebook and look up Heart-repreneurs with Terri Levine, because you're going to connect with so many heart-based business owners that you're going to have the opportunity to learn from, collaborate with. It's a beautiful place to go. Make sure you hit subscribe. If you found value in this show, make sure you hit like. And again, we love these 5-star reviews, and we will see you again next week. Thank you.
You've been listening to Heart-repreneur Radio, maximizing your personal and business results by leading with your heart, with your host, Terri Levine. This show is produced every week for your enjoyment and education. To make sure you never miss a single show, add us to your favorite RSS feed or subscribe in iTunes. You can also read Terri's latest blog posts at www.heartrepreneur.com/blog, or follow Terri on Twitter at MentorTerri, and on Facebook.com/Heart-repreneur Terri Levine. Your questions and comments are always welcome and appreciated. Send them to Terri on either Facebook or Twitter. Thank you for listening.